Have you noticed the culture of outrage that we seem to currently be living in? Some people suggest it starts with social media and the capacity to really let fly without seeing the person in front of you, because you're talking to a screen, you don't see their facial responses, you can't see the impact of your words on another human being in real time, and so as a consequence it's quite easy to say stuff that if you were constrained by actually seeing how what you're saying was touching somebody, you probably wouldn't say it. But I think it's been exacerbated more recently by a generalized sense of anxiety in the world. And since the COVID pandemic made us frightened of breathing, let alone breathing near anyone else who was breathing, and going out and going to the shops and doing all the normal stuff and being in touch with people, all things that actually regulate our anxiety, because we calm down when we're among the other humans and doing normal human interaction stuff. And when you can't do that, man, it's hard. It's hard on your sense of humanity. So that's been going on for more than 2 years now, and now there's a war in the Ukraine, and looks like interest rates might be going up. The cost of living certainly is. Wages aren't. There's such an overwhelming sense of anxiety, and we've got a general election coming, and so even that's not helping, because normally when you've got anxiety you stick with the people you know, but what if the people you know are the cause of the anxiety? Should you change to other people? We don't know. Nobody knows. And what if the whole thing's bigger than our government anyway, which in most places is, supply and demand and, constraints and blah, blah. How do we get from that to this culture of outrage, where people can be equally outraged by the Prime Minister using the word blessed in reference to the fact that his children didn't have disabilities, or outraged that the opposition leader didn't know what the key interest rate, cash rate was on a particular day. It all just seems a bit extreme, and I think that's because of the anxieties that we're living with. And one of the hidden elements in all of this is that we just aren't held as much. I don't mean physically, I mean socially and relationally and psychologically. Once upon a time there were bigger narratives that kind of held us together and gave us a sense of where we were going and who we were and what life meant and how to make sense of it, and how then should we live. And those things seem to have faded, and so it's kind of now every damn person for themselves. And I use the damn word advisedly, because we just seem to be damned into our isolation and aloneness and individualism. Into this context comes this much loved psalm, which we're looking at church on Sunday, Psalm 23. You've probably heard it if you've been to a funeral. The Lord is my shepherd. I have everything I need. Perhaps two of the most subversive lines of text you could possibly hear in our current age, because to proclaim that anyone is shepherding you is almost an acknowledgement that you need a shepherd. Well, hands up, I do. And the declaration that I have everything I need subverts the very consumerist culture that we live in, that relies on the fact that you don't have everything you need. In fact, even if you think you do, we're going to create a new need that you need to work harder for and spend more money on. But the scriptures, they're not about manipulating you, despite what is commonly thought. The scriptures are about life. and helping you discover the fullness of it. And so when Psalm 23 says, "The Lord is my shepherd, I have everything I need," it wants you to enter a place where you feel safely held by one who cares about you and gives you not everything you want, not every whim or fancy, but everything you need. These old traditions have a lot going for them. They give us a security that is beyond what your mates are doing, beyond what the crowd might be doing, in fact beyond what the nation is doing or the economy. It gives you a sense of being held in a matrix of meaning that is good eternally, not just for this week or this month or this generation or this economic cycle or this political round, but eternally. And that kind of security has a calming effect on our alert alarm nervous system, which basically means that we can start to consider things more reasonably in longer time frames, taking in more data rather than the survival shutdown response that turns everything into a binary choice of, is this good for me or bad for me? What about this? What about this? What about this? And we just go to binary switches, and that's not a long-term thinking. It's not comprehensive thinking. It doesn't take in a broad enough range of the data or reality or people or circumstances. So I commend to you Psalm 23. Have a read. It's one thing to read it, another thing to believe it, another thing to entrust yourself to it. But you've got to start somewhere. Happy to talk with you about that. It's a long journey. I've been on it for 40 something years. Man, I'm getting old. Better than the alternative. God bless. See you soon.